Hi everyone, it is Beth with Flying by the Seat of My Plants, and I am in my kitchen right now, and I thought I would bring you along just a quick, hopefully quick, not too long, but I am preserving some of my herbs, and I want to share with you how I do that. So today I went ahead and picked a bunch of parsley, so I do want to chop this up and I'm just going to freeze it. The other thing that I will be preserving is my sage, and this one's really simple. I just tie a rubber band and I hang it. You hang it out of direct sunlight, you know, not around a heater or anything like that. And I'm not going to dehydrate it. Some people do, and that's fine. You could do it on low in the oven, and probably with the door open, but like 170. And I do have a dehydrator, but I don't have control of the temperature. So I don't use it for dehydrating my herbs. So right now I just go ahead. I did harvest rosemary a couple weeks ago, and this has been hanging. I have a little area where the hutch in my dining room, and I hang these upside down. Just take a rubber band and tie it on there and just hang it. And so I'll be doing the same thing with sage. I just picked these today, and right now it's in Northeast Ohio, and I did a video yesterday actually on transitioning to the fall garden, and it was like 80 degrees. Today it's in the 50s. So and tomorrow I think the temperature is going to be right around the same, maybe 60. I'd have to look. And then the next 2 weeks it's going back up into the 70s and 80s. So that's Ohio weather for you. But anyhow, so I did want to get some of this stuff preserved. The parsley, I also brought in my basil, and I'm going to be cutting a lot of the good stuff. And the basil I will be blanching, and I'll show you how I do that really quick. I'll blanch it and then I'll freeze it. I don't want to dehydrate it because it just takes a lot of the flavor away, and it also turns the leaves to like a gray. And with blanching it, I'm going to keep the nice bright green. And the parsley I'm not going to blanch. I am actually just going to put this in, chop it up and put it in freezer bags and remove the air and freeze those. So right now I do have a little jar for my rosemary that I'm going to put that in, and just cleaning off. Take this rubber band off. And the other thing I want to preserve real quick is my pumpkin. And I know a lot of this, you know, some people might say, oh, you know, it's so easy to do, and it is. But there's a lot of people that have never done it and don't know how to do it, and hopefully this video will help them in preserving. So, you know, with the sage, I'm just going to take this rubber band. And I have enough just to get me through the winter. Ooh, I didn't catch it all in there. And sage will come back every year. In Northeast Ohio it does. So, you know, I just preserve enough to get me through the season, this winter season. So, okay, I'm just going to put this in the rubber band like this. And then I'm just going to hang it. I got a little area that I hang it in the dining room. I'll put this one in there. And I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to hang it for 2 to 3 weeks, and then when it's done drying, I can chop it up or keep the leaves whole, you know, however you want to do it. And I have a jar to keep my sage in, so right now. Okay, so that was easy. Now I'm going to turn the camera so you can see. I'm just going to go ahead and clean the rosemary off so I could put it in a jar and label it Rosemary 2024. And have it until the next season of growing. So let me go ahead and turn the camera. Okay, so here is the dried rosemary. And I'm just going to take and go like this. And all these, the leaves of the rosemary falls right off. And I discard the sticks. And this was all hung to dry. I did not dehydrate it. And And you can really smell it. It smells wonderful. And rosemary is really good with chicken and with pork and bread. I love rosemary bread. So the rosemary is almost done. And like I said, it was hanging for probably about 2 weeks. So now it's dry and perfect for storing, because you don't want to do this while it's fresh, because it could get moldy. So you do have to dry it out. And you're saving a lot of money by not buying the herbs if you grew them. Put them in the jar. So here I brought my plant in. It is the basil. And so I'm going to go ahead, because we're going to have wonderful weather next week. I do want to trim this down so I can preserve a lot of this. Let's see if I can get it up here. So this is kind of like, even like when you prune your flowers. When I cut it, I am going to go down to where I could see some new growth. So let me see if you can see it on here. So here is the new growth coming in here. There's a leaf on this side and on this side. So I'm going to cut this right above that. And I'll find the next one. So here's this one. There's really tiny leaves coming out right there, so I'm going to cut right there. And see how, this is where I cut it. If you could see the leaves right here, there's one here on either side. Okay, so now I'm coming to this one. And you could tell where I harvested last time, a couple times. So this one, I'm actually going to go here. Because now you can see where these two leaves are going to grow. So here I'll go to this. Because if you go too low and there isn't any additional growth, you're not going to have any regrowth. So you just got to be careful you don't cut it too low. Hope that makes sense. Let that one go. Okay, this one. Okay, I'm going to cut this down to where I see new growth coming in here. They're side shoots. Basically side shoots. So this is all going to grow back. Just going to cut that one off. Okay, same thing here. Let's see. Cut it down to here. I got the side shoots going on right here. I got side shoots coming out here. Okay, here's this one. Go down to where I see those side shoots. And I'm going to do it again here. Trying to decide. Okay, I'm I'm gonna go down to there. This one has side shoots right here, so I'm gonna cut that off. Same here. This one has a side shoot coming up. I mean, I'll describe it as like the armpit. It's right in the V where you'll see those shoots coming up. And the more you harvest, the more you get. Once it goes to flower, it starts taking the flavor away from the basil. So you really don't want it to flower. You know, towards the end of the season, go ahead and let it flower. Some of the basil, the cinnamon basil, I did let that go to flower, but then I cut it all down and it all started over again. And then you get the fresh growth on there. And the cinnamon basil, I should get some of that. And that I will dry because that I want to use in teas. Okay, this one, cut it down to here. Okay, I think that's all I'm gonna get off of this cutting. So up here, and that's what I got so far. And I'm gonna go ahead and just rinse this off really quick. And I don't use any type of pesticide, anything. So it's clean from that, but I just wanna make sure there isn't any, I don't think there's any critters on here actually. But anyhow, I'm just gonna rinse it really quick. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is just break off these leaves. And if I see like any bad spots, I'll take that leaf, I'll put it on the side. I'm not gonna use it. I'm not gonna preserve that. So as you're doing that, you know, check your leaves. And it smells wonderful. And it's not a lot that I got right now. I have been harvesting and using it fresh. But now that we're getting towards the end of our season, I want to make sure I put some, you know, to use to add to dishes throughout the winter. I have water boiling over there. So I'm going to put them in boiling water for about 2 minutes. And then you take it out, and I'm going to put it directly into cold water, and that's blanching. That's just going to stop the cooking. And that's going to keep it green, a real pretty green. So, and the flavor, it doesn't lose the flavor either. I mean, some things are good, I guess, in the dehydrator. My herbs, I don't like doing in a dehydrator. I mean, I just feel like it takes a lot of the flavor away. So, you know, either hang dry it or this, I'm going to freeze it, and I'm also going to freeze my parsley. Okay, I'm gonna bring you over by the stove where I got the boiling water going, and I'm gonna put it in there. Okay, so I went ahead and I already got some ice water here, and I'm gonna put the basil in this. And there's other ways that you can preserve it too, but this is what I'm doing right now. Different ways you can let me see, I printed out a little thing here for other ways to do it. So, okay, you can freeze it in ice cubes. So get the basil, you could chop it up, or put it chop it up in a food processor, and then you put it into each ice cube tray, and then top it off with either water, or you can use olive oil. You could puree it in a blender or food processor. Add 1 tablespoon of oil for every cup of basil. Then place the puree into a freezer-safe container. You can use the puree in soups, tomato sauces, and more, but I can also do that with this. You know what? I gotta set my timer. 2 minutes. Just a really small batch. Let me see, you could do the pesto cubes. Abby making pesto out of your basil and then freezing it in the ice cube trays. And the other way is blanching, and that's what I'm doing. Abby, no. Go sit. Abby, sit. Please. No. Nope. Just using this. This keeps it really a deep green if you blanch it first. Locks in all the nutrients. And then, of course, then I will plunge it into the ice water. And you're going to do that anyhow. Let's say if any blanching, basically, there's different time frames of how long you blanch for, but it's always a hot boil for a couple minutes, and then you take it out and you put it in ice water to stop the cooking, and that is called blanching. Okay, almost done. Actually, I'm going to take it out now because I didn't turn the timer on right away. That stops the cooking. Okay, so now I'm going to move this out of the way. So now I'm just going to remove these ice cubes and put it in this cup. So I don't want to get the ice cubes in with the... Okay, so I'm going to take it over here and drain it. And then I'll bring it back over. So that shrunk down to nothing. So what I'm going to do is just squeeze it. Squeeze all the water out that I can. Kind of like a third and a third. And to be honest with you, I have this here is from Pampered Chef. Since I only got a small amount, I'm just going to put that in there. Put this in here. Put them in here like that. This I got from Pampered Chef. And I'm just going to go ahead and freeze it like this. When it's done, I'm going to pop them out of here, throw them in a freezer bag, and I'm done. So that's the basil. So we went over the rosemary, the basil, and now I'm going to do the parsley. So I'm going to throw this in the freezer. It'll probably take like an hour, if that, to freeze. Now the parsley, just wash it, let it rinse, dry out, or put it in a salad spinner. If you see anything that might be sun scald or whatever, I just remove those. But the parsley looks really good. And I'm just going to chop it. Coarsely chop it. You can finely chop it, whatever you want to do. It smells really good. This is great for soups, stews that you want to add parsley. And I am cutting some of the stem to put in there. And that's probably good right there. Okay, and that's it for the parsley. I mean, I'm just going to freeze it the way it is. I'm not blanching this. I'm just going to go ahead, put it in a freezer bag. And you could break it, like if it's frozen and you just want a little bit, go ahead, break off so much that you need, and then put the rest back in the freezer. And you want to get as much air out of it as you can. Actually, there was a trick I was going to show you, but anyhow, you can press down on it. If you have a vacuum sealer, which I do, but I'm not pulling it out just for this. And throw it in the freezer. And you can mark on there parsley, and this is good for about 6 months. So I'm putting 8 of 24. And that's it. Throw it in the freezer. And now you have this for, and I still have some out there, so I can go ahead and get more and do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to turn my oven on to 350 because I'm going to roast. I'm going to go ahead and just work on the small pumpkin. The larger one I'm going to do later. I'm not going to do that now because I kind of want it for decoration purposes. So this is the sugar pie pumpkin that I grew. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I'm going to get a bigger knife. I don't know. I'll try this knife. I'm just going to cut it in half. Okay, and I am going to save the seeds. Okay, so there's a half. I'm going to get tin foil. I got a cookie sheet right here. And the only thing I'm doing is roasting it. And I put it face down. I don't even take the skin off because that'll come off really easy after I roast it. Okay. Well, a couple seeds fell and Abby's eating them. Okay, so now I'm going to, you know what, I'm just going to leave the stem on there. That's it. All right, so I'm going to put that in the oven, and when this is, probably for like a half hour, 45 minutes, and I'm going to take a fork and pierce it, you know, or a knife just to, once it's really soft, you know, if you're like making mashed potatoes and you stick a fork in before you mash them, that's basically the texture you're looking for with the pumpkin. So I'm going to put that in the oven, put the timer on for about a half hour. Clean up my mess. And when this is done, I will bring it back. I think that's it. I wanted to show you the basil and how I preserve it. The rosemary. So I got my little jar of rosemary now. Fresh rosemary. I just hung it to dry. It was just a little over a week. Probably close to 2 weeks. And now I have my sage hanging. And go ahead and put this in the oven. Okay, you know what? I'm bringing you back really quick because I thought as long as I have your attention here, these are the tomatoes I picked yesterday. I did a video on that yesterday. And so I wanted to show you, because a lot of people don't realize this either, but I am going to go ahead and freeze these because I'm not ready to can yet. I have my mom, she had an empty freezer at her house and basically is full of my tomatoes. So all I do is cut off the top. These are the Amish paste, And then on the bottom, I'll just put an X on the bottom and throw them in a freezer bag. And, you know, if it had a deep core in there, I would remove the core, but it really doesn't. Nothing that bad. But I did wash these off. And of course, if there's any bad areas, you want to wash those off. I mean, cut those off. And when I have time to can, that is when I'm going to go ahead and can. I'll take them out of the freezer, and so this buys me time, and the skins are going to slide right off. When you thaw these out after you freeze them, the skins slide right off, and then I do dehydrate the tomato skins, and I make a tomato powder. And I have some from this is tomato powder that I already powdered up, and you can add it to stews. I like it. Some people don't like it, so I mean, try it. And I add it to stews. I add it to chili just for that extra tomato flavor. And if you have not canned, or you don't know how to can, one thing, it's good to learn that, because you could preserve so much food that way. Make jellies, cowboy candy with a lot of peppers, the water bath canning, and then of course other foods that you want to preserve, you do have to use the pressure canner, and that can be intimidating. I get intimidated by it, but anyhow, tomatoes can be water bath canned. You just have to follow the Bald Book of Canning and how to do it, and it's pretty simple. And there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that show you how to do it. I have one I think I did last year. Now the other thing is you can freeze them, the tomatoes, and if you don't can, you don't have to. You could put them in the freezer. Of course, it's going to take up a lot of space, but if it's just a few tomatoes that you grew, go ahead and freeze them. And of course, you got to cook with it. It's not like eating them fresh. Now, the San Marzanos, I'm just going to cut the tops off. That's it. I'm not even going to score the bottom. The skins are going to come right off. You can leave them in the freezer until you're ready to cook. And you can make anything you want with the tomatoes, just like, you know, but you do have to cook. You can't fresh eat it after you freeze them. But it holds all the flavor. You don't lose any flavor. And from there, you could pull out a bag and make chili. You can make spaghetti sauce. You can make sauce. Well, I don't know about salsa. You can make anything that requires like canned tomatoes. You can do with your frozen tomatoes. Okay, so the pumpkin is out of the oven, and I'm going to show you up close, all nice and roasted. And I'm actually going to wait for this to cool off a little, but I could take this and stick it in there very easily. It's still pretty hot. I am going to let it cool off, and then I'll be scraping this all out. I do have a Vitamix mixer that I'll be putting it in, and I'm going to puree it, and then I'm just going to put it in a freezer bag and freeze it. So once this cools down, I'll bring you back for that. Okay, it's cooled down some, so now I am just going to scrape the inside to get it off the skin. And putting it in the Vitamix. I got a Vitamix. If you have a food processor, or you can just mash it, but you got to really mash it good. it can be a little stringy. So, I mean, if you have a food processor or a blender, that's really works best. But I am telling you, you can mash it if you don't. The whole thing is you are preserving what you grew to make food. And I thought about it too, where you could probably add spices to this. I mean, if you wanted to have a pre-made with the spices, you know, I wouldn't add like milk or anything like that or sugar, but pumpkin pie spice or cinnamon and freeze it with that already in there, you probably could do that. Me, I'd rather just freeze it like this and add the spices when I'm ready to prepare it, whatever I'm making. And this is so much easier than trying to skin it before you do anything with it. When I first did my first pumpkin, years and years and years and years ago, I actually boiled it. And I peeled the skin before I boiled it. I didn't know about this. And this is the easiest way to preserve your pumpkin. Just throw it in the oven and roast it. And then you can make soups, you can make whatever you want. And you could do that with your other squash too. I have the honey nut out there yet that has to be harvested. It's just not ready yet. So this is, you know, what you're getting when you're growing a garden. So the most important thing is grow things that you're going to eat. Trying different foods. You might not like something that you grew, and then you just don't grow it the next year. Just, you know, the satisfaction of knowing that, you know, you have food that you grew, that you're using for your baking or cooking, is the biggest satisfaction, I think. The money you're saving from going to the grocery store, I mean, it is an investment. You know, I know you have to buy certain things to, you know, amend the soils, the fertilizers, and everything else, but at least you know what you are making is good. It's not GMO. That's a big thing going on right now, that imports, they want to approve foods that are GMO to the United States. You don't have to worry about recalls. You're feeding your family safe foods. Your family or yourself. And there's the pumpkin puree. I have a gallon-sized bag, freezer bag. All right, so there is the puree. And now I am just going to try and get as much air out of it that I can. Put on their pumpkin 2024. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to show you how I do preserve my herbs. Now, like the rosemary, the sage, I like to hang dry that. I don't like to dehydrate that. And the basil, I went ahead and blanched that and then froze it. Parsley, I didn't do anything except clean it and then put it in the freezer bag, let all the air out. Anything I put in the freezer, let all the air out, and froze that so I can use that for baking and adding to different recipes throughout the winter. And so now I'm just waiting on my paprika pepper to dehydrate that and powder that up. When I do the canning for the tomatoes, I'll be dehydrating the skins. And, you know, even if you don't can, you can freeze your tomatoes and use that in cooking. Use fresh tomatoes out of your freezer. It doesn't lose the taste or anything. And you can make your spaghetti sauce, pizza sauce, different things like that. Chili, and adding the flavor is just like adding fresh tomatoes. So, I guess that's about it. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that was helpful to some people. Hopefully there's more videos coming up with different cowboy candy I want to do, some jelly I want to do, different preserving now that the garden is coming down. Although I did start the fall garden, so hopefully there's going to be a lot more videos on that too. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will talk to you guys on the next one. All right, thank you. Bye.